here are our agents. I created four. So you've got Timothy, Barbara, Angela, and Pamela. With each doc, you'll see there's like a whole conversation. We basically pull the raw HTML and then we create an internal doc. Reason why we needed to create an internal doc is we needed all the agents to have one space. And if you create a doc outside, then only the agent that created the doc has access to it. What happens is we get the HTML, it takes the HTML from here, it gets all this, and then it goes and creates an internal Monday.com doc. Once it's done with that, it will change it to in review, and then we'll basically say agent review requested. And then you get like a beautiful little conversation thread over here. They're basically talking with each other, trying to figure out how to get the doc to be like. Also came to me and said, we need you to change all of the internal support links to the new public Monday.com docs. So you can imagine, how do I change 640 documents that haven't been published yet and bring in the internal links? So that's when I created Timothy. So what Timothy does is Timothy goes into the doc, finds anything with the previous URL, and sticks it in here. Then you have the other agent that publishes the doc, goes into the sub item, and then replaces it. So now, if you take a look, this was the final output. So this was the original doc. This is how it all worked.
Yep.
And you see over here, let's learn more about our cordial. Then if you click on this, I also noticed that it was a bit more strategic about where it put information. So now you've got all this. There.
Beautiful.
Now it goes to the actual internal document. And then you can see that this note was put at a little bit at the top. But when I was actually reading the structure of the document, it made more sense for it to actually hear. So it's also like cleaning up the grammar and things like that for them. But it's not changing like the wording and things like that. It's changing a little bit of the side of things.
How did you train these agents, Darren?
I spoke to them for a very long time.
Okay. All right. He's in it. You're in it, man.
But yeah, and then what they wanted to know is like, can we know if an internal doc is an attachment, which we could basically put over here? Like this is a doc migration like this is like insane, especially with how much we're trying to use agents for. And you can see that the agents basically give a score based on the information that it goes with. So it brings a human in the loop function if it's not happy at all.
Can you show me or describe an example of when there's something that is tab heavy?
This one. So AI basically was like, human review needed. It picks it up. So you'll see over here, the Monday doc contains four unresolved element custom tab markers. These are Zendesk specific interactive tab accordions that could not be auto converted. It knows where it is. And before it goes and publishes it and does the internal linking, a human has to review it and then basically do it. So if you look at the sculpt blocks, okay, it's over here. Okay. So this is where it starts. So it actually gives us an unresolved element. It tells us where it is. Anyone can come into the document, type in like CF unresolved element, and it will take them directly to the spaces. So what it did was it just basically put everything in one line. So unresolved element, unresolved element, unresolved. So a human would have to come in and just clean it up a little.
There we go. So I just even saw like call to action, at least is like a paragraph header. It respects the Monday doc framework where you can at least go on that sidebar and go right to what you're looking for.
Exactly. So it does that for each of these. The problem was is that we couldn't really import the information from Zendesk to Monday directly, and there needed to be minor adjustments to the documents, plus a hell of a lot of heavy lifting on creating new support links. And also, I also got the anchor linking working, by the way.
Awesome. Okay, that's huge win for them.
Yeah, it was a mission. So here are the four agents. So you've got Angela, Pamela, Timothy, and Barbara.
We were suggesting that it was going to be make.com. What was that lift going to be? Let's say there were no agents available.
I think it would have to basically do a whole make scenario. I actually don't even know how we would have done the linking. If you think about it, what would need to happen is that we would have to create a public document, get that URL, go back into the document that we created, find the correct text element within the Monday.com doc, and then hyperlink it to the new doc that we just created. Imagine doing that in Make. I mean, you can work in block IDs with work docs, and that's not just the one thing. I think with Make, what you would have to do is you'd have to also import it and go create block ID after block ID after block ID after block ID. But you'd have to create like so many rules to say if it's this, you must do this. If it's this, you must do this. I don't think they would have gotten the full scope of what we've given them now without the agents.
Amazing. So there's 4 active for this exact workflow.
Yeah. So
That's
actually, there is a make scenario that we do have in here. The make
yep.
scenario is the thing that created the brain. So the brain is where we are storing all of our information, and it's really the workplace where all the agents are working together. One of the interesting things with regards to how we had to build the agents was the way that we had to use the internal Monday.com doc. The thing is that when an agent creates a document outside of a board, that agent has access to it, but other agents can't see it unless a human manually goes in and gives them access to it. On a Monday.com doc column, if an agent has got access to the board, an agent has got access to the doc, which means it's got all the context. That was just the learning that I kind of got while doing this. This is basically how we do. We've got our name, we've got the original support link, the raw HTML. So we created a make scenario that said get HTML. So what it would do is it would go get the link, get the HTML, and plunk it right into this file column. Then it would also just import the markdown from that HTML directly into the Monday.com doc. And that was the starting point. That's how we start. Then we move into doc creation. And doc creation belongs to, it's Angela. Angela is the document conversion agent. This is basically the instructions we had to give to Angela. So she had to basically analyze the Zendesk knowledge article, that HTML, and then she had to convert it. She had to think about like, what are the right components that I need to take this note to? So you can see over here all of her instructions. Quite a lot. I had to
Yeah.
like talk with her a bit, get her to do all of this.
Did you make this in one fell swoop, these instructions, or was it revised
No,
over time?
revised over time. The thing is, it's more like getting an intern and giving them an initial set of instructions and saying, this is what I want to do. And you work step and step order with them. I'm still going to probably be optimizing Angela a little bit as we go through this project as well, because what happens is that we find small little tweaks. It's like, oh, no, you must do this. You know how
Yeah.
like sometimes you have an intern, they're like doing something and you're like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
don't do that, do this.
Yep.
It's the same thing with agents. You have to work with them, and eventually the output's getting better and better and better and better and better. So this is all of her stuff. Angela is basically the one that formats the articles. Let's take you through
She
to,
sees the raw HTML, or does she see the Monday doc that the HTML was?
she sees both of them. She needed to see, so she's able to upload the HTML and she's able to see all of the tags. Like for instance, in the HTML, you can see like LI, so you know that's lists. Then you can also see there's classes, so notes, tables, and things like that. So she's able to read all of this and then is able to come and convert it into, let's go with this one. You can see here she created it, brought in all the images and things like that. So this one was one I was doing early this morning. This is basically the support link that we had. And what we were trying to do is we we're trying to get these anchor links. What happens is now we have the one that's actually going to be live. This was all the agent, and the agent had to craft the actual URL. So when I click on Gmail, it goes and actually crafts that particular URL. That required a little bit of working with the agent, say you need to
Yeah.
build it this way and so on. We've got basically the doc creator. So the doc creator, that's Angela. Then we're moving over to Pamela, the doc reviewer. Now, this is quite cool. What's really nice is that you get to see like the feedback from each of them. I needed to kind of see their logic and their reasoning as to what happened. So Angela would go here, I've done this. Then Pamela would come, cool, I've reviewed the Monday doc. The H tag is used correctly. There we go. Da, 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 da. Cool. There we
Nice.
go. I was working on the documents again because I wanted to get Timothy involved. So you see, they basically can come across and kind of debate with each other around how it works. So once all of the links were done, she was happy with it. Then that moves into link review. Now that's Timothy. Timothy needs to go and look for all the links inside of the document. What was previous? And we also need to differentiate the different types because we've got internal links, we have anchor links, and we have attachment downloads. So attachment downloads, something we can't really do, but we can flag them. So that's what the agents can do. That's someone can come in here and filter by just coming in, type is attachment, and then they'll
Yes.
see all of the links that they need to kind of work through and so on. So we're just making it a lot easier for the team to kind of manage their stuff as well. So even if we aren't able to do the 10% lift, we're definitely making it a lot easier for them to find out exactly what the hell needs to happen there. So here you can see what the previous URL was. And then what happens is that you have the new URL. So this tells us what the new URL is going to be. I'll explain what public doc required means. That's Timothy. Timothy basically analyzes all the links and is getting it ready for the last agent. So Pamela has her instructions. She's probably got the biggest instructions because she's reviewing, right? So she's
Are you
got
using ChatGPT as the AI to dial in the instructions?
actually, what I do, I take my iPhone, I then put my recorder on, and I basically explain what I want. And then once I get the prompts, I then go to Gemini. I put my entire conversation that I had. Say I want to create a Monday.com AI agent with these instructions, put it in there. Then Monday.com goes and creates it. So Timothy's got the shortest amount of examples because it wasn't actually too bad for him.
He's just the link wizard.
He's just the link guy. Yeah. So that's all he needs to do. He just needs to go identify links, categorize them, and put them as sub items. Then the one that we have to really work with the most is Barbara. Barbara is a really, really complicated one. Because now what Barbara has to do is Barbara needs to take that internal document that Pamela and Angela were working on. Barbara then needs to go and look at all the sub items that Timothy found. Barbara then needs to go and look at each of those previous URLs and say, do I actually have a new Monday.com dot link? Because we don't want to link the internal support document from Zendesk in our new Monday.com files. So she's got two instructions. She has to create the public document and she has to update the document. When she creates it, she basically takes what's done in that internal Monday.com and just plops it onto a public doc. When she updates it, she has to go into Timothy's sub items and start analyzing all of those links and start hyperlinking to the correct sections. If I was in document A, I want to link to document B. It showed that in Zendesk. I now need to recreate document B and then link to the new document B. That's where it gets really
That's
tricky.
wild.
The way that we're able to understand how the internal links work is because the logic was when you are trying to link to something, we've got the call your support link. Now, this could link to this, and this could link to that, and so on and so on. So what happens is that we use this previous URL to match it. So because Timothy was able to find the previous URL in this doc, and we could match it to this support link, we then know that is going to be the public doc. Because what happens is that when Barbara creates her public doc, she goes and creates a public Monday.com URL. Each of those old support links are now going to get new public Monday.com URLs, and then Barbara is going to then replace all of them. Let's actually do one. Now, it does take a little bit of time. So this is the article we want to do. Okay, got some notes, got some images, there. And we've got some links over here. And already I can see that these are going to be internal links that we're going to have to kind of work with. So the first thing we do is we go and get our HTML.
So right now, Make is running a scenario, get the
So
raw
Make is basically
HTML.
taking this cordial support link and going to get the HTML, and then it's going to stick the HTML in there, and it's also going to create a Monday.com doc of yours. Now, I can run 20 of these at a time. Okay, so there we go. There's our Monday.com doc already created. And you can see that we've already got the markdown in here. So you can see it brings through the messages and so on.
Very fast.
No, I just imported the markdown. I swear this would have been a lot easier if we just had to import the stuff. So we've got a couple of tables. That's what everything looks like at the moment. So you can see we haven't got our notes in here. We haven't got our table over here. This is going to be a bit fun to see how this works. And there's the HTML. Now we need to go create the doc. When it clicks on create doc, what's happening now is that we can go through to
Did you click create doc or did the
no,
agent flip that?
the make automation triggered Angela to start working.
Awesome.
Angela will probably, if we go take a look at her activity now, you can see she's in progress right now. So she's getting cracking on this board. So now she's currently just busy editing it. Triggers are very important. When you think about an agent, you have to think about how an agent is triggered. In this case, I wanted to be very controlled. So I wanted it to be on literally a status. That's all I wanted it to be because I'm asking them to do a lot of stuff. So when I created my agent, I created it with my statuses over here. So now what will happen is Angela is going to work on this document for a little bit. She'll work on this document until we're going to hit doc review. Doc review, we'll see, it will say agent review requested. That's when the back and forth is going to happen.
Does Angela flip to doc review?
So Angela, when she's finished, will change it to doc review. What I kind of had in my head was I imagined them as people. And I was like, well, if I had a human doing this, I would want the human to change the status to let the next human know
Right.
what the next step is. It's the same thing with an agent. You want the agent to let the other agent know. I think the
Yeah.
agents think that they're talking to other humans, in my honest opinion.
How are you approaching segmenting work per agent? Because that's one thing that I've been taught, which is you don't want to overload them with too many instructions, keep them laser focused on solid task or workflow. How do you think about that when you're building these?
It comes down to process mapping, and you always have to think about RACI. So, for instance, responsibility, accountability, contribution, and informed. Okay, so you can see now agent review. So now Angela's going to start working on her stuff. So, documents sorted. I kind of mapped out the process. I was like thinking, step one, import HTML. Step two, edit it as best as I can. Step three, I would have someone review it. There would probably be notes. I would probably go back and forth. Then eventually I got the curveball of, oh, we need links now. So I was like, okay, step five. Five will find all of the internal links. There's attachments. Oh, okay, I categorize those internal links. Step six, take everything that I've done and put it into one public document that we'd be able to utilize. Now, we'll be able to create the public document, but we'll only be able to update it later once all the public documents are created, because Timothy is going, I can see, is going to identify internal links. Let's take a look and see what Pamela did to this document. This is her first round of revisions. It's actually really interesting. These blocks are technically notes, but they're tips. But if you read what is being said here, the copy is very tippy, if that makes sense. It's like when adding fonts, we recommend you provide a stack of fallbacks. It's not a typical note column. So you can see that the AI is thinking of what is the right thing to show at this point. It's
Yeah.
using a note, it's using the class, it's using it in a different way. And you can see it's cleaned up the table over here really nicely.
Yeah, that's a great cleanup on the table, actually. I'm very impressed.
The instructions are very clear around table formatting. I'll show you them. There you go. Link tracking must be enabled to feature. See, that's info. This is one of the cool things that I love about the agent. The agent is actually coming up with ideas on, oh, this is a cool
Right.
way to do it. Now, the one thing I'm seeing over here is the structure. I just want to see if I'm happy with the structure. No, structure is actually fine. Looking good. And there comes all my notifications. I think agent approved. So we can see I've completed a full review. The source contains no, the document begins. All text came through, so that's good. All 5 sections, all numbered text, all images in correct positions, all notice boxes, full keyboard shortcuts. What it does is it gives you an understanding. So you, as the human, need to review this. You can see exactly why the agent approved it, because you want to
Yep.
see why the agent actually approved it. Now, technically, I could create an automation that says when agent approved, change status to this, but this is very easy to automate. I just haven't done it yet. Identify internal links. Now we've got Timothy. Timothy's now going to start going and getting all of the sub items that we basically need. You're going to start seeing a whole bunch of sub items basically start creating. He's actually quite quick. He'll probably be done in the next minute.
Have you thought about how these go into the actual service portal and where they're located there?
Already, what I'm starting to do is that we're pulling through the section ID, the way that we're going to structure the folders. What I want to try and do is eventually be able to kind of create these sections. And you can see we've got the categories. So you could create a folder called category, and then we create all the items within that particular category into a folder and so on. So
Do you imagine these living in their own workspace?
I think it would be in its own knowledge workspace, because I kind of see it as a space where we kind of need to keep the management of the knowledge itself, because that's actually what this
Yes.
cordial doc brain is doing. Is
Yeah.
this is a really nice table that's organized all of their information, and they can even
Right.
go and add more workflows to this particular document.
You're right. They're going to request new documents, edit existing ones.
So here we go. Here are all of our links that Timothy found. So we've got roughly around 8 links in total, 6 internal links, 2 anchor links. So we can see hashtag, hashtag. The thing is that we're going to go and create our public doc. She's going to just recreate what was done over here. You're going to see a new public document appear in this folder. And then we can move this folder around and so on. We're starting to already get our internal docs. So now you can see that she's already created this new doc. This is what this is looking like. So this is the public doc that we'd be able to give to people.
Looks
But I can see
completely
that
clean.
she's still editing things. So you can see notes are still coming through and so on. When this status changes to doc created, then we know. This public doc required. Now, because we've got all these, like, if you look, quite a few different docs that need to happen.
Right.
9167. We're linking to like 5 or 6 different internal documents where we don't have those public Monday.com docs yet. Or what I want Barbara to identify is that when I click on update doc, it will tell us exactly which documents need to be created.
That is something I did not even think of until you just said that, because there's also an order, but it's an impossible
Yes,
order for you to know right now because it's linking
correct.
to other docs that do not yet exist.
Exactly. So what will happen is that she will update it as best she can, but she's going to then tell us in this public doc required what documents still need to be created.
How recreatable do you think this is for if someone was migrating from another platform?
Yeah, if we were able to get the HTML and we had the components that matched with it, I think it would actually be quite doable because you saw what the original import markdown looked. That's as good as
Yeah.
you can kind of you can maybe do like a little bit if you really, really focused on make. The Monday.com agents, when they're reading the content, Monday.com has built them really nicely into Monday.com docs. And the agents are really good when it comes down to language. And now there you go. You can see everything's quiet. So I know that I need to actually go and create all those docs now.
Now you
Um,
can filter by that. And when you
Now
get,
I can filter by what needs to be there and
wow.
go and kind of create it. And then what I can do is that if all of these aren't green, I can see that her run is complete. She didn't update anything, which is good because she couldn't. But she did let me know exactly what I need to go and create.